Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make Paimon's boot cuff out of EVA foam. The pattern I'll be using is available on my Etsy shop, so if you have the pattern and want to know how Paimon's boot cuff is put together, or you're just interested in seeing the process, keep on watching. So the first thing you're going to want to do is print out all of your pattern pieces, and you're going to have a total of 4 pages. So what you want to do is verify that everything printed at 100% scale or the actual size. And you can verify that by going to this 1-inch square at the top of the page and measuring to see if it's actually 1 inch. And then you can verify if you printed out the pattern at the correct size. So once you've printed out your pattern, what you want to do is actually make sure that this cuff is going to fit your leg before you start crafting it. So the first piece you're going to want to cut out is piece number 10 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out and then show you how you're going to size that onto your leg. So now that I have piece 10 cut out, what I'm going to do is try it on my leg to see if it fits. So if you're just going to be wearing this on your bare leg, go ahead and try it on your bare leg. If you're going to be wearing some kind of tights or boots, I would go ahead and put those on and then try this over to see if this will fit as well. So for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to be putting it on my bare leg so you can see how to measure. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip this over, and I'm trying this on my right leg. So the pattern is for the right cuff, and in order to make the left cuff, all you do is mirror the pattern. So let's go ahead. So I'm putting it right under where I plan on wearing the cuff, and I'm going to grab the 2 ends and then make sure they fit. So as you can see, it fits, and of course it does because I did size this based on my own measurements. But if you have this on and it's too small or it's too big, then this is when you can go back into your printer settings and print it at a smaller or larger scale, say like 90% or 110%. And then you're going to repeat these same exact steps. So you'll cut out piece 10, size it and around your leg, see how it fits. And if it fits, then now you can go ahead and cut out all the other pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and do that and show you what to do next. So once you've cut all of your pattern pieces out, you might notice that on pieces 8 and 9, there is a mark right here that says join, and that's what you're going to want to do before transferring your patterns onto the foam. And this will just help create one piece so that you can cut your foam out into one piece. But if you prefer to keep them separate so that it's easier to lay out on your foam, say like this, instead of having this really long piece, then you can go ahead and do that. But just remember that once you cut it out of the foam, you need to join these ends together so you can create one long piece. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is laying out all of my pattern pieces on 4mm foam and marking all of the registration marks. And now once all of your pattern pieces are traced, the next thing you want to do is start cutting everything out. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is separate all of the pieces first, and then I'll show you how to cut everything properly. So now that we've traced out all of our pieces, we're going to go ahead and start cutting everything out. Now, if you noticed when originally cutting out the pattern pieces, you may have noticed that there's these little dashed lines and dashes at the bottom here. So what those are indicating are the kind of bevel cuts that you're going to be doing on your foam pieces. And what this is going to do is help you achieve the pointy edges that you see on Paimon's cuff. So for these really small dots right here, what you're going to be doing is a bevel cut that goes in towards the pattern. So for example, if I hold the foam piece to the side like this, my blade is going to be angled in towards the pattern piece. And then the dashed line at the bottom here, as you can see, when I hold the foam piece to the side, your blade is going to be facing out. And it might be a little bit confusing right now, but I'm going to go ahead and cut everything out and show you how it looks. Okay, and then anything without any dotted or dashed lines, you're just going to be doing a straight cut, so you're going to be holding your blade straight up and down. All right, so now that we have this first piece cut out, I'm going to show you what it looks like from all sides to make sure you cut it out right. So on this edge right here, it's just going to be a straight cut. So from the side, it's just straight up and down, as you can see. Now on this side is where you were supposed to do a bevel cut going in towards the pattern. So from the front, it looks like this. And then from the back, you can see the cut goes in towards the foam. And then from the side, it looks like that. So that's what you want it to look like. And then the bottom is the complete opposite. So you're doing a bevel away from the pattern. So it looks like this from the front. And then this, what it looks like from the back. And then from the side, you can see that bevel right there. And then you're going to repeat those same steps for all of the pattern pieces. And I'm going to show you how it looks for every single one, just to make sure you're cutting everything out correctly. So here we have pattern piece 2. And as you can see, there's not really much going on with this pattern piece, except that there is one bevel cut that you're going to need to be doing at the bottom, and that's the one where you're pointing your blade away from the pattern piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out and show you what it looks like. So once you have everything cut out, this is what it looks like. You're going to have straight edges along this edge right here, as well as this edge from the side. There's nothing crazy. You can just see a straight edge. Same thing here. And then at the bottom, you're going to have that outwards bevel. So it looks like this from the front, from the back, and then from the side right there. You can see that bevel. So we're going to move on to piece number 3. Okay, and we're going to repeat the same exact steps as we did for piece number 1. So you can see there's the dotted line on the right over here. So you're going to be doing a bevel cut towards the pattern piece, and then at the bottom you're going to be doing a bevel cut away from the pattern piece. Okay, so once this is cut out, you're going to have a straight edge along this edge. You're going to have the bevel cut going in towards the pattern, so it looks like this from the front, and then like that from the back. Same thing at the bottom is going to be the other way. So you have your bevel cut, this is what it looks like the front and from the back. And then piece number 4. So same thing as before, mostly straight cuts on this pattern piece. Just at the very bottom, you're going to be doing that bevel cut away from the pattern piece. So it looks like this, straight cuts on this side as well as this side, and then that bevel cut at the bottom right here, just like that. Move on to piece number 5. Same exact thing here. So you're going to be doing the bevel cut on the right side towards the pattern, and at the very bottom you're going to do the bevel cut away from the pattern. Okay, so same thing here, straight cut on this edge, bevel on this side, that's what it looks like from the front and from the back, and at the bottom there's the bevel as well, from the front and from the back. And then move on to piece number 6. So this one's going to be cut exactly the same way. So on that right side we're going to be doing the bevel cut towards the pattern, at the bottom the bevel cut away from the pattern. Now, as you can see, I kind of struggled with cutting this corner right here just because it is really sharp. And that's honestly not a huge deal because nobody should be that close to you to be able to see that. But if it really does bother you, you can go back at the end and clean it up with a Dremel just to clean up those edges. But for me, for my purposes, it's totally fine. So once again, right here, we did the straight cuts along these edges. And then this side was the bevel towards the pattern. So it looks like this from the front. And then from the back, you can see that bevel. And then from the front, the bottom right here is the bevel as well. So we're gonna move on to piece number 7. Okay, so same thing here. We're gonna do straight cuts for most of it. And then at the very bottom, we're gonna be doing the bevel cut going away from the pattern. So same thing as all of the other pieces, did some straight cuts along this edge, and then there's a bevel at the bottom here, from the front and from the back. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next piece. So this piece it might look a little bit difficult to cut out just because it's so long and thin, but if you kept your pattern piece in 2 separate pieces, it may be a little bit easier, just because it's going to be shorter pieces that you have to cut. But honestly, this really isn't too tough to cut. You're going to be doing straight cuts all around the edge, and at the very bottom, you're going to be doing a bevel that goes in towards the pattern. So what I recommend is that you actually cut the bevel first, and it'll make everything a little bit easier. Okay, so this is what it looks like. There's a straight cut along this top edge, and then the bevel cut at the bottom here. This is what it looks like from the front, and then from the back. So you can see I didn't really cut everything perfectly. Like there's like some excess here, and that's totally fine. Your pattern pieces are still going to fit together, and it's going to look just fine at the end. So we're gonna move on to the last part. So same exact thing here. Pretty easy. This one's a little bit bigger than the last piece. You're going to be doing straight cuts around this edge, and then at the bottom you're going to be doing the same exact kind of bevel we just did. So you're going to be pointing your knife in towards the pattern piece. So this is what your final pattern piece will look like. Straight cuts on all of these edges, and then this cut, there's a bevel going in towards the pattern, the front and back. As you can see, my edges aren't very nice, and like I said, that doesn't bother me. It's still gonna look fine in the end. So what we're gonna go ahead and do next is start assembling. So now that we have everything cut out, I'm going to show you how to assemble it. So everything is numbered and it's pretty easy. You're going to start with 1 through 7 first. So you're going to attach pieces 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, so on and so forth. And then once you get to piece 7, that will be the end of the top piece. And then I'll show you how to put the bottom pieces together. But what I'm going to be using to put everything together is some contact cement. So I will show you the whole process of that. So when you're using contact cement, and this is the one that I'm using today, you do want to be wearing a respirator because there are some pretty nasty fumes with this. And I like to wear gloves just because I don't want anything to get on my fingers. I do recommend them, but if you absolutely have to go without them, you totally could. I would just try to avoid getting it onto your skin. So one thing to note as well when you're gluing your pieces together, all of these registration marks are there for a reason. So as you're gluing everything together, try and get your registration marks to line up, and that way your pattern pieces will fit together nicely. So once that you've glued everything together, you should have something that looks like this, which is the complete leg cuff for the right leg. In order to make the left leg, all you have to do is mirror the pattern pieces. Make sure you transfer your registration marks as well, and then cut them the same exact way that you did for this, and then you'll have the left leg piece. Now, you're probably wondering why I did not glue these two ends together. So this is how you can decide how you want a specific closure for your cuff. So you can do this a number of ways. You can use Velcro, you can use elastic, and I will show you what I did on the final piece that I did. So this is a finished piece, and what I ended up doing to keep this closed was, you can see I have two pieces of elastic in here. What I did was I sewed these pieces of elastic to 2mm EVA foam, and then I used contact cement to attach those pieces onto this foam piece. And what that allows me to do is that this can be slipped on and off, and then the elastic gives it just a little bit of stretch so it can open up and go over any boot or calf really easily. But it also keeps the cuff closed for me, so I don't have to worry about, you know, opening or closing it. It just stays like this on the leg. And now you're wondering, like, oh, how does this stay up when you're walking? So how I ended up prepping this was I ended up just using some spray paint. I didn't finish it just because of time, so your results may vary, but because of the spray paint and the piece I had under it was also spray painted, it actually helped this stick to the boot. So my sister that was wearing this, all she had to do was slip this on over the boot, and it actually stayed up by itself when she was walking. But if you experience that you're wearing this, and if you're using the same kind of closure as me, where you just have some elastic, then what you can do is you can add some loops and then some extra attachments in here, and then you can possibly tie that onto your boot or whatever else you might be wearing, just to keep that up a little bit easier. So as I discussed before, this whole piece is spray painted. I didn't seal it, like I said, because I was running out of time when I was making it. So despite being worn for 3 days at Otakon for about 8 hours each day, I think this still looks pretty good, and it held up pretty well. As you can see, some of the paint is wearing off just because it was rubbing against the other piece as my sister was walking. But if I actually took the time and care to prime and seal everything properly, this would probably look a little bit better. Now, there are multiple ways that you can color your EVA foam, and if you're not familiar with working with EVA foam, I highly recommend looking up different videos on YouTube. There's a ton of really good resources out there. But just a few examples, you can do like what I did and use spray paint. You can hand paint it with acrylic paint, and you can use things like airbrush as well. Now, you might be wondering, you know, is this comfortable to walk in because it's really big, it's an odd shape, and it just sticks off your leg? So my sister was the one who actually wore this, and she said that when she was initially wearing it, the back piece right here that goes behind the knee, it was a little bit weird to walk with because every time you bend your legs to walk, you could feel it behind your leg, but it wasn't a really big deal because the EVA foam bends. And as you can see where these crease marks are, it's where most of the abuse came from. But after walking in it for, you know, just several minutes, she said she got used to it really quickly, so it wasn't a big deal. So if anything, the abuse you're gonna see is coming onto the foam piece and not your actual legs. But you can always reposition the leg piece, so move it in or out to make it more comfortable to walk. But like I said, my sister was pretty much okay with walking through this for 3 days straight. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.